Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my reading and review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and ways to listen to the show and support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. You can support the show in a couple different ways, either through Patreon, and you get extra content for that for as little as $1 a month, or through the merchandise store. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Also, please check out the links to friends of the show on every episode description. Of course, Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays usually, as well as Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting. And there you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own, 24/7 on that online radio station. So I wanted to just sort of start by talking about what we've just finished reading in the previous episode here of this series, where Ford brings up something that he does not include, at least not yet in this book. He mentions that he has not bothered including notes of falling remains. Let me see if I can find that spot again. Let me see here, because I really find it fascinating that there's things he's leaving out that are just seem even too weird to him in his mind. But that there have been things that have fallen that are the remains of men, of as in humans, or other animals, but also covered in clay or stone, as if sent, he says, there as projectiles. But so there's things that he is not even including in this material, at least as of yet. And I find that to be amazing, because what else is out there that it was just even too strange for him that we never hear about because of that? And I'm not blaming him at all. Everyone has their sort of their levels of what kinds of things they can wrap their mind around or accept, and what things they can't. And so that's not a put down on him or anyone else. But that just fascinates me that there's reports somewhere in all these earlier newspapers and journals and magazines of the remains of humanoids falling from the sky. And I'm guessing it would be in weird ways, not just because of a regular storm, because that's the other thing that he covers is that so many of these falls don't make sense in the way that they were explained by so many other people in science and other fields as being things that were picked up by a whirlwind and then dropped later on. Sometimes, who knows how far later on. Because of details like the almost targeted way that things fall. In other words, in very specific areas. And because of the lack of other objects that you would think would get picked up, along with whatever else whatever else falls that are not found. Other things that are not found along with these falls of items, of objects. So I really think that's amazing that there's things that he won't even bring up, at least as of yet, in these books, because they're just too strange even compared to everything else. So I think that's amazing. And it just brings up a lot of questions, to my mind. If he did include those examples of, let's say, the remains of humanoids landing or falling, would those remains show that they're just regular humans? Or would they show something else? I don't know. But Of course, my mind, being a writer, it goes to all kinds of different directions with science fiction and things like that. Where in a sci-fi story, I could see these remains falling being from some other species, not humanoid or not human. Maybe humanoid, maybe that kind of general shape, but not exactly human. So again, that's just my sci-fi writer's brain going there in that direction. That's not what he's saying. So, but anyway, getting back to the material here. Um, Continuing on from where we left off last time. Not one instance have we of tadpoles that have fallen to this earth. It seems reasonable that a whirlwind could scoop up a pond, frogs and all, and cast down the frogs somewhere else, but then more reasonable that a whirlwind could scoop up a pond, tadpoles and all, because tadpoles are more numerous in their season than are the frogs in theirs. But the tadpole season is earlier in the spring, or in a time that is more tempestuous. Thinking in terms of causation, as if there were real causes, our notion is that if X is likely to cause Y, but is more likely to cause Z, but does not cause Z, X is not the cause of Y. You lost me there, but that's because it sounds almost like algebra, and math is hard. Anyway, upon this quasi sorties, not sure about that word, we base our acceptance that the little frogs that have fallen to this earth are not products of the whirlwinds, that they came from externality or from Genesis Dream. That's this other place um, outside of Earth that he is sort of proposing in a way. And that's GENESISTRINE. Again, you see the word Genesis in there, which is, I guess, understandable. It's a well-known origin for well-known book in religious literature there. So, uh, going on, he says, I think of Genesis Dream in terms of biologic mechanics. Not that somewhere there are persons who collect bugs in or about the last uh, of January and frogs in July and August and bombard this earth any more than do persons go through northern regions catching and collecting birds every autumn, then casting them southward. But atavistic or vestigial geotropism in Genesistrine, or a million larvae start crawling and a million little frogs start hopping, knowing no more what it's all about than we do when we crawl to work in the morning and hop away at night. I should say, myself, that Genesistrine is a region in the Super Sargasso Sea, and that parts of the Super Sargasso Sea have rhythms of susceptibility to this Earth's attraction. And looks like that's the end of a chapter. Yes, it is. So again, these are ideas that he's putting forward. Not that he believes them 100%. I believe he said that in the beginning of the book. He's not saying he knows anything for sure. Just possibilities as to explanations for these all these events. If you listen back to all the shows in the series, it's probably tens, maybe even over 100 of events that um, have been included in this book just so far that I've read. So that's really amazing to think about that as well. Let's see here. So chapter 8. I accept that when there are storms, the damnedest of excluded, exo, ex, no, excommunicated things, things that are leprous to the faithful, are brought down from the Super Sargasso Sea, or from what for convenience we call the Super Sargasso Sea, which by no means has been taken into full acceptance yet. There we go, see? Just what I was talking about there. That things are brought down by storms, just as from the depths of the sea, things are brought up by storms. To be sure, it is orthodoxy that storms have little, if any, effect below the waves of the ocean. But, of course, only to have an opinion is to be ignorant of, or to disregard, a contradiction, or something else that modifies an opinion out of distinguishability. Simmons Meteorological Magazine 47-180. That along the coast of New Zealand, in regions not subject to submarine volcanic action, deep-sea fishes are often brought by storms. Iron and stones that fall from the sky, and atmospheric disturbances. This is a new section I'm thinking. In quotation marks here, there is absolutely no connection between two phenomenon, says Simmons. That's that publication. The orthodox belief is that objects moving at planetary velocity would, upon entering this Earth's atmosphere, be virtually unaffected by hurricanes. Might as well think of a bullet swerved by someone fanning himself. The only trouble with the orthodox reasoning is the usual trouble. It's phantom dominant. It's it's basing upon a myth. Data we've had, and more we'll have, of things in the sky having no independent velocity. There are so many storms and so many meteors and meteorites that it would be extraordinary if there were no concurrences. Nevertheless, so many of these concurrences are listed by Professor Baden-Powell, British Association 1850-54, that one notices. See British Association 1860, other instances. The famous fall of stones at Siena, Italy, 1794, in a violent storm. See Greg's catalogs. Many instances. One that stands out is bright ball of fire and light in a hurricane in England, September 2nd, 1786. The remarkable datum here is that this phenomenon was visible 40 minutes. That's about 800 times the duration that the Orthodox give to meteors and meteorites. See the annual register, many instances. In Nature, October 25th, 1877, and the London Times, October 15th, 1877. Something that fell in a gale of October 14th, 1877 is described as a huge ball of green fire. This phenomenon is described by another correspondent in Nature 17-10, and an account of it by another correspondent was forwarded to Nature by W.F. Denning. There are so many instances that some of us will revolt against the insistence of the faithful, that is, or that it is only coincidence, and accept that there is connection of the kind called casual. It is, oh, I lost our spot. One moment, please. Okay. Oops. No, I went to the wrong page. There we go. If it is too difficult to think of stones and metallic masses swerved from their courses by storms, if they move at high velocity, we think of low velocity or things having no velocity at all, hovering a few miles above this earth, dislodged by storms and falling luminously. But the resistance is so great here, and coincidence so insisted upon, that we better have some more instances. Aerolite in a storm at St. Leonard's-on-Sea, England, September 17th, 1885. No trace of it found. Parentheses, Annual Register, 1885, close parentheses. Meteorite in a gale, March 1st, 1886. Described in the Monthly Weather Review, March 1886. Meteorite in a thunderstorm off coast of Greece, November 19th, 1899. Parentheses, Nature 61-111, close parentheses. Fall of a meteorite in a storm, July 7th, 1883, there we go, near Lachine, probably Lachine, I'm not sure, Quebec. Parentheses, Monthly Weather Review, July 1883, close parentheses. Same phenomenon noted in Nature 28-319. Meteorite in a whirlwind, Sweden, September 24th, 1883, parentheses, Nature 29-15, close parentheses. London Royal Society of Procedure, not sure, PROC, 6-276. A triangular cloud, that's fascinating. That's long before your triangular craft, UFO craft that people claim to see now. A triangular cloud that appeared in a storm, December 17th, 1852. A red nucleus about half the size or half the apparent diameter of the moon, and a long tail. Visible 13 minutes. Explosion of the nucleus. That's odd. Triangular. I've never heard of a triangular. I mean, I guess I've heard of maybe vaguely. I don't know. That's just weird. Nevertheless, in Science Gossip, NS 6-63, it is said that though meteorites have fallen in storms, no connection is supposed to exist between the two phenomena, except by the ignorant peasantry. Don't you love how some people just talk about other people? It's always just so nice of them. Let me see here. Peasants believed in meteorites. Scientists excluded meteorites. Peasants believe in, quotation marks, thunderstones. Scientists exclude thunderstones. It is useless to argue that peasants are out in the fields and that scientists are shut up in laboratories and lecture rooms. We cannot take for a real base that, as to phenomena with which they are more familiar, peasants are more likely to be right than our scientists. A host of biologic and meteorologic fallacies of peasants rises against us. I should say that our existence is like a bridge, except that comparison is in static terms. But like the Brooklyn Bridge, upon which multitudes of bugs are seeking a fundamental, coming to a girder that seems firm and final, but the girder is built upon supports. A support then seems final, but it is built upon underlying structures. Nothing final can be found in all the bridge, because the bridge itself is not a final thing in itself, but is a relationship between Manhattan and Brooklyn. If our existence, excuse me, is a relationship between the positive absolute and the negative absolute, excuse me, the quest for finality in it is hopeless. Everything in it must be relative. If the whole is not a whole, but is itself a relation. In the attitude of acceptance, our pseudo base is: cells of an embryo are in the reptilian era of the embryo. Some cells feel a stimuli to take on new appearances. If it be of the design of the whole that the next era be mammalian, those cells that turn mammalian will be sustained against resistance by inertia of all the rest, and will be relatively right, though not finally right, because they, too, in time, will have to give way to characters of other eras of higher development. If we are upon the verge of a new era in which exclusionism must be overthrown, it will avail thee not to call us base-born and frowsy peasants. Yeah, I like that. Anyway. Let's see how much we have. Okay. In our crude, bucolic way, not sure about that word, we now offer an outrage upon common sense that we think will someday be an unquestioned commonplace. That manufactured objects of stone and iron have fallen from the sky. That they have been brought down from a state of suspension in a region of inertness to this Earth's attraction by atmospheric disturbances. And the next paragraph is a good long one, so we're going to stop there. This is, I think we're going to get to soon here. Sounds like one of the things I'm most interested in a way, because even if you want to be extremely skeptical about natural objects coming down from the sky and falling, and then being picked up by whatever storms or weather is out there, then to me, these stones and other metallic objects, they're fascinating because those sound like things that had to be shaped or made, and before they fell down. And where did they fall down from? Did they go up first somehow? I have no idea, but this has been amazing. Looking forward to doing more of these shows here. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.